Hello everyone. Mid-South Adventures YouTube channel has awoken from its winter hibernation, and today I've got a topic that has a personal connection to me. I am standing in the moment at the edge of Harper's Chapel Cemetery in Gibson County, Tennessee. And to give you an idea of where I'm at, this road in front of me here is County Farm Road. Right over there, if you can see it, the road that intersects right there is Casey Road. And right back that direction is State Highway 186. So I'm about 4 miles southeast of Trenton at the moment. And while this is Harper's Chapel Cemetery, and I used to just refer to it as Lomax Cemetery because some of the graves behind me are Lomax family, but I found out it's actually Harper's Chapel Cemetery. But Harper's Chapel Road is about a mile or so that direction, and that's where I know the Harper's Chapel Church was, and the the building that was the church is now, part of it is now, it's actually a private house. You know, part of that is the remains of the Harper's Chapel school. So anyway, what this subject about though is the county farm here in Gibson County. So many of you may have heard the term county farm before, or poor farm, and perhaps you're not sure just what it really was. County farms were established. This is back in the time when there really wasn't any nursing homes, Social Security and disability didn't exist. And so this was a way to take care of people who weren't able to take care of themselves. You know, they could have been elderly people that didn't have any family, or their family wasn't able to take them in. Could be somebody that was with a disability. Could be perhaps a widow who at that time wasn't able to take care of herself. And as I understand it, sometimes you would hear them referred to as inmates. They were not prisoners. They were not they didn't send people there with mental issues. They went to Western State Mental Hospital. And if I understand it, you actually had to apply to the county in order to be able to go and live on the county farm. And it was a functioning farm the idea was that as much as possible, it would be self-sufficient. It would grow the food that would feed the people who were living there. So here in Gibson County, in December of 1840, Mr. E. Sharp, James Hess, and Samuel Booth were commissioners appointed by the county court to establish a county farm. And they reported that they had bought 100 acres from Augustine Woods to be used as a poor farm. And the first superintendent of the poor farm was an Allen Parr. And to give you an idea of how the county farm was self-sufficient as much as possible, I found this report from 1905 of what was turned in to the county court of what was made that year on the county farm, what they produced for their consumption there. It's 35 gallons of soap, 71 gallons of kraut, 10 bushels of onions, 10 loads of grass, 3 loads of millet, 50 gallons of apple vinegar, 28 bushels of Irish potatoes, 3.5 bushels of dried apples, 7 loads of pea hay, 55 bushels of sweet potatoes, 3 bushels of butter beans, 800 bundles of fodder, 67 bales of wild hay, 113 gallons of molasses, 18 bushels of stock peas, 175 barrels of corn, 10 gallons of cucumber pickles. They had 6 head of cattle, 393 pounds of pork they put up, and 400 pounds of beef. So you can see how they were attempting to be as self-sufficient as possible. County farm was in operation here in Gibson County well into the 1900s. The last resident here moved out of the county farm sometime around 1955 or 1956, somewhere in that vicinity, from what I've been able to find out. Okay, now, here is where, as I said before, I have a personal connection to this. Unfortunately, I don't remember the exact year because I was just a very, very small little boy. I was born in 1956. But sometime around 1958, 1959, 1960 at the latest, my father, who was a farmer, rented the county farm from the county. They had ceased operations of it as far as any residents living there, but the county still owned it, and so they were renting it out. And I'm not sure if we were the first people to rent it from the county or not. I think we could have been. I do know this. I have very vague memories of when we moved in, and there was the big house that the superintendent lived in, and that's where we lived. And here's a aerial photo of the big house right here. And when we moved in, there was still one of the houses that the residents lived in stayed there. I think the entire time, was still standing the entire time that we lived there, because my father used it to store fertilizer and seed in. And it seems like I remember when we moved in that some of the other houses beside that one that the residents lived in were still there and were being tore down. But we lived there until the winter of 1964. The county sold it sometime in 1963. And so what happened is my father bought a farm, which is right over that way, and built a house, and that's where we moved to after leaving the county farm. But I lived here from the time I don't remember the exact year. I was so little. My parents and my brothers have all passed away, so I really don't know. I can't find out exactly what year we moved here and exactly how old I was, but we lived here until I was 7 years old, going on 8, when we moved away from here, when the county sold it. And used to catch the school bus in this very cemetery I'm standing in, because the school bus would turn right up here at Casey Road, turned onto this road, and me and my cousin would catch the school bus here. To give you an idea of the layout, the size and all that, say it was 100 acres is what they said they bought. I don't know whether they added any more to it later on or not after the original 100 acres. But this field you see here that we're looking at right here runs all the way up to Highway 186, the corner of 186 at County Farm Road. That was a part of the county farm. There was another field over just across the Casey Road right there. There was another field there, and one that's back over behind that tree line over there. There was a field. And keep going back far enough, and it turned into pasture land back there. There was several acres of pasture back there, which is still in use. And back that way, you can see, I'll try to zoom in here in a second, the only remaining structure, original structure of the county farm that's still standing is the big barn that stands back there. And it's like I say, it's the only remaining structure. Someone has built a house on the property, and I'm trying not to really show their house, kind of out of their respect for their privacy. But it is, that house, the new house that's been built there, sits just a little bit off from where the old county farm superintendent's house that we lived in sits. It's not exactly in the footprint of it. It's just a little bit further down south from where the house originally, the superintendent's house originally was. I remember some of the structures that were around there. You know, there was a smokehouse, there was like a root cellar, there was a chicken coop out there. Several houses, several structures like that, like I say, are no longer standing there. Give you another view of the property that was the county farm. I'm standing right now on Casey Road, and the cemetery that I was in is right back over my shoulder back this way. This is the big field that I pointed out earlier, and you can see all the way back to State Highway 186, which is the Trenton Gibson Road. The boundary of the property was right along that ditch that you see right there, and then this field over here, and across that way, that field over there was part of the county farm. And of course, there's the field here, and back over that way, you can see the barn. One of the superintendents was not the first superintendent, but one of the superintendents, I'm pretty sure it's in the 1800s, was a John P. Harper, which, like I say, this is Harper's Chapel Cemetery, and he is buried right back over this way right here. He was superintendent here, and he's also a Civil War veteran. And right over here is the grave of John P. Harper, who was one of the superintendents here at the county farm and was also a Confederate veteran. Now I'm in the Eldad Baptist Church Cemetery here in Gibson County, which is probably as the crow flies, probably not much more than a mile from the county farm. A little bit further when you have to drive around the road to get here. But this is the grave of William White, who was also one of the superintendents at the county farm. I don't know the exact year, just like I didn't know the exact year that Mr. Harper was superintendent. But the obituary for William White does tell that he was one of the superintendents at one time of the county farm. And I've done a video on him before, if you're familiar with this channel. I did a video on him. He is a Confederate veteran and was at the Battle of Gettysburg and was in and survived Pickett's charge. So, pan down a little bit, and there you can see his veterans marker here too. So that's another one of the gentlemen who was the superintendent of the county farm at one time. One of the things that I remember from when I was a little boy living on what had been the county farm was that there was supposedly there was a cemetery for the residents of the county farm that was back in what is the pastures back in the back part of the county farm there. And I remember being told when I was a little boy, very little boy, not to go wandering around out there where that cemetery was, because there was some of the graves that might have sunk in, and you know, being a little fellow, I might I don't know, slip and fall in. Not that it went all the way into where the actual grave was, but I don't know, it's just something that I remember them telling me. So what I'm going to do now is go a little piece down County Farm Road here and show you as best I can figure out where the cemetery to to the county farm is. It's about a half a mile probably from where I was standing at the cemetery until we get back to location where I can point and show you where I believe the cemetery for the county farm is. Just past where the big house was, and just past where that the house that I mentioned that was still standing, that we stored fertilizer and seed in. So going to a stop right in here. Okay, we're looking out into the pasture here at the county farm, and if you see right up at the top of the hill right there, if you can see through all these little trees here in between us, that there's a large tree that's laying down. Well, right up in that area is where I believe that the county farm cemetery is. If you go and find a grave, you can see a list of some people that are buried there, and I've been told that there's a lot more people buried there than what's on that list. I don't remember right offhand, but I don't think there's more than 10 people, maybe less than 10 people that's listed there on Find a Grave that's buried there. And I'm sure there's a lot of people buried there in unmarked graves. I don't know if any of them are marked. I'd love to get up there to check it out, but I really don't know who owns this property now. I'm not going to trespass. A, I'm not going to trespass, and B, that's a pasture, and I'm not fixing to try to outrun a bull. So, but I would like to get up there sometime to see if that is where the cemetery is, and what you can see up there, if any of the graves are marked or not. I know there is a Charles C. Murdoch who's buried there. He lived from 1849 to 1900. The interesting thing about him is he is the brick mason who set the cornerstone for the Gibson County Courthouse. And of course, the courthouse was built, I want to say 1899, 1898, so he didn't live a long time after that. And how he wound up at the county farm, I don't know. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of stories like that as to how people wound up there. But another person that's buried there supposedly is a Jane Nichols Peters. She lived from 1812 to 1855. Supposedly she is Cherokee. Her husband is George Washington Bassinger, and not sure why, if Peters was supposed to be her maiden, I don't know. But he died in 1875, so he lived for 20 years after she had died. And he's buried in Missouri, so I don't know if he was living at the county farm with her when she passed away, if they weren't living together. I don't know, don't know the circumstances of that, but that's another one that's buried there in the cemetery here at the county farm. Like I say, I would love to be able to get up there and sometime and check that cemetery out. Maybe someday we'll be able to do that and make a video about that. So I hope this video has been interesting to you, and sort of give you a little insight as to what a county farm is, and a little bit of the history of the county farm here in Gibson County. Like I say, it's something that I have a little bit of a personal connection to. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but the big house there, I have that aerial photo, which I put in this video. I wish I had other photos of it, but it burnt sometime, I want to say it was the late 60s, early 70s. I don't remember exactly the year, but I do remember it burning. I remember the day it burnt, because the house that we were living in, on down here, you could see the big house at the county farm then, and I remember all the commotion when it was burning that day. So there's like I say, the barn is the only structure that's still left, and I don't know what kind of shape it's really in. From a distance, it looks to be in pretty good shape. So who knows how much longer that piece of history will be standing. So, like I say, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be getting out now that the weather's getting better and making some more videos. So please feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit that little icon so that you know whenever we do make a new video. Till next time, so long, everybody.